Françoise LUTALA 2. From the Convent to the Salvation of God. This testimony is the second part of a series of 7. When they told me I was cardiac, I did feel pain in my heart. As for overwork, it surprised me a lot. Was it a way of interpreting the phenomena that were happening to me? For example, when I put something in a specific place, I found it moved to another place. When I complained, people attributed it to overwork. I saw things in the street. I could feel the presence of an invisible person at my side, and I could even feel rubbing, but I could not see anyone. One day I saw a young man wearing a snake wrapped around his neck like a chain, but everyone else saw only a gold chain. I was ridiculed when I wanted to show him what I saw on his neck. This chain was not ordinary. The young man, out of respect for my condition of ex-nun, refrained from slapping me and attributed my reaction to overwork. I am looking for Marie-Therese. One day, I was in class and I was writing on the blackboard. I had written so much that my arm was starting to hurt me. It was then that I observed something strange. Starting at my shoulder blade, another arm appeared so that I now had 2 straight hands. Apparently, I was the only one to see this phenomenon since the students were silent. I was afraid, and I refused to accept this image in my brain. I tell myself that it was a hallucination due to overwork that was always attributed to me. I wanted to continue writing, but I was short of strength. It was then that I saw letters appearing of themselves on the blackboard, to form the following sentence: I am looking for Marie-Therese. I lost consciousness again and fell to the ground. The students laughed when they saw me falling because they had not yet discovered what had made me fall. But they saw in their turn the letters that continued to appear on the board, and they heard a voice saying, I'm looking for Maria Teresa. They did not have the courage to wait for the rest and ran away, some by the door, the others through the windows. This was happening at Tuendalia High School, former Lycée Marie-José. The Maria Teresa in question was a young student from this school who had died as a result of a failed abortion. I was no longer religious, but people often kept calling me Sister Françoise. Thus, when this scandal of the Lycée Marie-José was known, my former masters, that is to say, the Catholics, to cover up and discredit me, published an article in a local newspaper. This article said that the former nun Sister Françoise had advised a young girl who came to consult her on the action to take in case of pregnancy, and that she had suggested to her to abort. The mother and baby were killed during the operation. The paper went on to say that the girl's spirit was tormenting the ex-Sister Françoise, hence her frequent crises. The Roman Catholic Church is a great human organization, better structured than the Mafia or the CIA because it is directed by Lucifer himself. At the same time, in Lubumbashi, there were in many places manifestations identical to mine. A strange pregnancy. I found myself pregnant again. The design had been normal. In the 4th month, I went for an antenatal consultation. The gynecologists discovered that my pregnancy was ectopic. Ectopic pregnancy is a complication of pregnancy in which the embryo attaches outside the uterus. It needed an operation. Normally, such an ectopic pregnancy causes pain in the first months of its development. As I did not feel any pain, I refused to be operated on. Offended by doubting their diagnosis, the doctors demanded radiology. The radiological examination at the Lubumbashi hospital confirmed the diagnosis and I submitted to their decision. The operation lasted 6 hours. And no trace of any pregnancy was found. The doctors found in me fertile ground for their research. They did everything to understand the phenomenon. I was diagnosed with diseases at a rate of 1 per appointment. I was prescribed treatment, and When I came back for a check, I was diagnosed with 1 or 2 other diseases. Finally, I was diagnosed with cancer. My belly had increased significantly. I vomited a foul-smelling mixture of rotten black blood and saliva. I had lost a lot of weight, and my complexion had darkened. All the vigor of my youth had disappeared. All beauty had given way to ugliness worthy of a candidate for the grave. The doctors eventually concluded that I had cancer in my stomach. I underwent a second operation. But, in the impossibility of doing anything to stop the progression of the disease, or to eliminate it, I was returned home without anything being reported medically to me. The conclusions of men. Assisted by a grant from Gacamines, my family went to Paris to send me medical care to St. Anne Hospital. I stayed there for a full year. I underwent all kinds of medical examinations. I was then made to understand that I did not have a long time to live. Despite the conclusions of eminent scientists, the idea that I had to go through an imminent death did not even touch my mind. There was in me the conviction that I would live a long time. We then went to Switzerland, where I followed for 6 months uninterrupted medical care. Then I was sent home to die. According to the doctors, I only had 5 months left on the land of men. Chapter 4, Secret Magic. Back home, I resigned myself to my fate. I did not expect anything anymore. People came to see me to tell me to go find witch doctors. Others came with a long list of medicinal plants. My husband John did not share their opinion. For him, the evil that was eating me was of demonic origin. It required the intervention of God. He advised me to go and find priests to exorcise me. Encouraged by these words that seemed uplifting to me, I gathered the little energy I had left and went to find my former colleagues. Alone. When I arrived at the convent, the Reverend Father received me with open arms. He seemed to be expecting my visit. Sister Françoise, you did well to come and ask for advice, despite your state of health. I can already guarantee you that after your death, your soul will not stay long in purgatory before entering paradise. You have already suffered enough like that. For that, we will say several masses in your memory so that the good God intervenes quickly. If God can intervene, it is now that I need His help the most. My Father, I am a mother, I have 4 little children who still need me, they are still very young. We all know that cancer does not forgive, death always frightens me. I understand your pain. So you can go everywhere to seek your healing as you understand it. Come back quickly to see me when you are well. I will hear your confession. It was a polite way to get rid of me and fire me. I left, sad and depressed, not knowing what to do or where to go to avoid this dreaded death. I was already at the main gate of the convent when I heard someone calling behind me, Sister Françoise. Initiation. His colleague had just revealed to him the reason for my visit. The young priest tells me, come. Find me in my parish whenever you want. He left after giving me his address. The next day, I went to find him after the morning mass. He was not surprised to see me. All I can do for you is not to prevent death from reaching you, but to delay coming with special prayers that I intend to give you. Of course, you will die one day, because no one is eternal on this earth, but if you keep my counsels, you will live long, and I will put you in touch with holy angels. As long as there is a possibility, as small as it is, to extend my life, I am ready for anything in my power to live. First, buy your sanctuary and some props, and they will be of great use to you in your prayers. The sanctuary in question was a wooden box painted in several colors, the upper part of which was shaped like a cone. A white cloth covered everything. Inside, there was a statuette of the Virgin Mary, a crucifix, images of the one that Catholics mistakenly call Jesus Christ, a tombstone called Holy Stone, relics of a dead, nails, hair, pieces of cloth that belonged to the dead, called relics of a saint, etc. In addition to the sanctuary, I also bought incense, candles and various other items. The Bible declares holy anyone born again. The Roman Catholic Church canonizes the dead. A little book was handed to me. He was my guide for my prayers. So I began to pray following the prescriptions of this book. The effects did not fail to manifest themselves. One day while I was praying in my room, a wind, coming out of I do not know where, began to blow violently in my room. It calmed down as it had begun, mysteriously. I could not go to the priest and tell him what I was going through because it was agreed with him that I could not go to see him until the angels of God appeared to me. My mysterious practices. One afternoon, around 1:06 I was in my room praying. In fact, I was just reading the texts or reciting the ones I had already learned by heart. I had sprinkled the whole room with holy water. I had sprayed myself with perfume and I had blown a little powder in the corners of the room. The smoke of burning incense floated in the room, giving it an exotic appearance. My crucifix before me, I was praying my rosary, according to the instructions of the little book. In this smoky atmosphere, I saw coming out of the cloud of incense a form of hand, which made me a sign to approach. I remained prostrate, astonished, hypnotized, without understanding what was happening to me, forgetting where I was. I blinked to see if I was not dreaming all awake. However, the hand was there and kept beckoning me. I was praying for a probable cure, but the idea of an apparition of this kind had not even entered my mind. I expected, however, but without much conviction, to see angels appear, as the priest had announced to me. What happened next tore me away from my contemplation. The hand metamorphosed into a strange being that was not an angel. This being had only human's hands and forehead. He had the ears of a rabbit, the eyes of a cat or an owl, a muzzle as a mouth, and a scaly head, surmounted by 2 horns. He had hooves instead of feet. He was dressed in black pants and wore a striped vest of green, red and yellow. I still had the presence of mind to recognize that I was in the presence of a demon, instead of the angel of God promised by the priest. Despite this discovery, it was impossible for me to flee or cry for help. If I did, it could have reduced my chances of healing. I did not move, because I wanted too much for my recovery, whatever the price to pay. A cavernous voice came from the depths of time, came out of the muzzle of the beast, thus breaking the silence. Why do you invite me here? If I came to you, it's because you disturbed me a lot. Your prayers have come to me, why do not you come to headquarters like everyone else? What is this headquarters and where is it, so that I can get there? If you do not know the headquarters or where they are, how did you learn what to do to call me? Who informed you of my existence? Who should answer your questions? With these words, he disappeared as he had appeared. Since it was getting late, I did not leave immediately to see the priest. The next morning I went to see the priest and told him what had happened. As I spoke, I noticed that his attitude was becoming weird. I realized that he was embarrassed to admit that it was not an angel of God who had appeared to me, but a demon, a fallen angel. Throughout our conversation, the priest did not give me the time to finish my sentences. He interrupted me often. I accepted to play the game. You saw the angels? Ah! Sister Francoise, you're lucky. Many wanted to see what you went through and did not succeed. Others died without being able to come into contact with saints in their lifetime. In any case, your cure will not be sooner. What have these messengers of the Lord told you? He asked me to call him not from my room, but from the headquarters. Where is the headquarters, so that I can go there? Finish first, tell me everything you have to tell me, everything they told you. I'm sure you know the headquarters and its location, even if you do not know that is what it is. My father, he told me to go find you, so that you could drive me there. Are you sure you've heard this invitation? Yes, certainly, my father. If it was not, how would I have known the existence of the headquarters? It's okay, you're right, you convinced me. In this case, listen to me. You will tell your husband that until your healing, you will have to attend a series of special masses, every night starting tonight. This is so he does not ask you any more questions in the future. As for you, you will carefully ensure that nobody follows you so far. Come find me alone, around 11 p.m., and I'll show you the way to the headquarters. I repeat to you that you must be careful that nobody follows you. Existence of headquarters. It's okay, you're right, you convinced me. In this case, listen to me. You will tell your husband that until your healing, you will have to attend a series of special masses, every night starting tonight. This is so he does not ask you any more questions in the future. As for you, you will carefully ensure that nobody follows you so far. Come find me alone, around 11 p.m., and I'll show you the way to the headquarters. I repeat to you that you must be careful that nobody follows you. Existence of headquarters. It's okay, you're right, you convinced me. In this case, listen to me. You will tell your husband that until your healing, you will have to attend a series of special masses, every night starting tonight. This is so he does not ask you any more questions in the future. As for you, you will carefully ensure that nobody follows you so far. Come find me alone, around 11 p.m., and I'll show you the way to the headquarters. I repeat to you that you must be careful that nobody follows you, he does not ask you any more questions in the future. As for you, you will carefully ensure that nobody follows you so far. Come find me alone, around 11 p.m., and I'll show you the way to the headquarters. I repeat to you that you must be careful that nobody follows you, he does not ask you any more questions in the future. As for you, you will carefully ensure that nobody follows you so far. Come find me alone, around 11 p.m., and I'll show you the way to the headquarters. I repeat to you that you must be careful that nobody follows you. According to the priest's advice, I informed my husband of what I should do. John let me go, not without having previously rejoiced that my former partners had been kind to me. At 11 p.m., a few minutes later, I was at the convent, where I found the priest waiting for me. We made our way to a room inside the chapel. Once in this room, I noticed other religious, all dressed in black. The cure changed and put on black clothes. He handed me a parcel and asked me to put on his contents as soon as possible. There was in this package a black dress, black stockings, black gloves, and a book with a black cover. When I was dressed in black like everyone else, the priests demanded that I kneel to pray for me. They laid hands on me. During their prayer, I was seized with vertigo. When the prayer was over, they wanted to make sure of the effect that the laying on of hands had done to me. I told them what I had felt and I saw a relief on their faces. The priest said to me, "We can go now." It was not yet 11:30 p.m. when we drove towards the central hub of the city of Lubumbashi. At this hour of the night, there reigns in this place of the city an intense commercial activity. After Parking the car, everyone went down. To my surprise, the priests began to undress, without paying any attention to my presence or the people around them. Most naturally, they begged me to hurry to undress, as if they had forgotten that I was a woman. I obeyed but wanted to keep my underwear. I received the order to remove everything and stay naked, like everyone else. The priest told me, "Hurry up, we have only a few minutes left before joining the headquarters." The lights were bright. People circulated in all directions. Nobody seemed to notice us. Yet, these priests were well known in Lubumbashi. How to explain this? It was scary to go through such an experience. One of the priests pestered me, "Hurry, we have no time to lose, you will pay dearly if we are late." It was then that I realized that we were invisible to the lay persons. I undressed in my turn. We crossed the street and reached the center of the crossroads. A pentagram was drawn on the floor. I was invited to lie down, with my back to the ground, and each of my limbs at the top of one of the points of the pentagram. I was lying on the ground with my arms and legs apart. 5 candles came out of I do not know where shone at each summit. They made incantations on me. 3 naked prelates came over me while taking care to touch some parts of my body. They said prayers that were unknown to me. These priests came to me as it was done during the priestly ordination of a new Catholic priest. The ceremony ended, the candles disappeared without my understanding how. The headquarters was none other than the cemetery. At headquarters, I thought we were the only ones who frequented cemeteries at night. I lost all illusion when I saw the growing number of people I found there. Most were young. I do not know what means they used to get there. There were young people in search of thrills, each in his own domain. Students came to find a way to finish their studies successfully without working. Athletes came looking for records that were second to none. Musicians came to draw new inspirations. With sacrifices, these people signed pacts to be more successful in their businesses. But, alas, this glory was only temporary. It was necessary to renew the pact after a certain time, for fear of losing reason or life. There were also politicians. Besides success, they wanted to obtain the power of domination to win in general assemblies. Some wanted the power to read the future, to protect themselves from bad days. The sacrifices they had to offer were consistent. Some came to prepare their speeches. All professions were represented: doctors, lawyers, engineers, etc. All had a common denominator: they were all Satanists in search of earthly success. If you preach Christ to such people, they will not accept him as their Lord and Savior. These people often hide behind religious denominations or sects that deny the divinity of Jesus Christ. I also noticed pastors, deacons, abbots, including the abbot Kasongo, who was a familiar face, priests, and so on. How do these people, whose mission is to lead men to God, had they failed here to lead them to Satan? I, therefore, concluded that God did not exist, or that the God we could believe was a false God, a God of substitution, and that the true God was elsewhere. The presence of healers, fetishists, traditional practitioners, and other charlatans did not surprise me. It was normal for them to come to their source. We made a site visit. Arrived at a grave, we stopped. The priest recited a prayer by invoking some saints, and of which he and his colleagues were perhaps the only ones to know the secret. Some passages were taken from the book of the prophet Jeremiah. Using a magic wand, he struck a grave that opened on its own, pulling out the coffin. Under the coffin, I discovered a passage, a kind of corridor that looked out on a sort of cellar or Basement. Along the passage thus opened, we reached a turning point, beyond which my eyes discovered an abomination. On the floor itself, there was a life-size cross on which a man was tied up, dying and lying in his blood. Of course, he wore a crown of thorns on his head. One nail was planted in each hand, and another fastened both feet to the wood. He had no chest injuries. However, this man was surrounded by chains, which were, in fact, large rosaries. The sufferings of this man were obvious and gave me the thrill. With a serious and compassionate look, the priest said to me, "Here is our Lord Jesus Christ suffering on the cross. His agony lasts because he is never dead. He is still alive." We had no doubt reached the goal of our walk because, after seeing this being, we prostrated ourselves to worship him, and then we turned back. A few details: the being on the cross had similar features to those of the Jesus Christ whose images flood markets and specialty shops. This same Christ is sometimes also represented on women's jewelry. Continued in Part 3.